Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Today I'm gonna present you the topic prototype model. So outline of our topic that we are going to discuss is introduction, model design, phases, application, advantages, disadvantages and summary. So introduction to the model is, in this model the developer and client interact to establish the requirements of the software, define the broad set of objectives. This is followed up by the quiet design, in which the visible elements of the software, the input and the output are designed. The quick design stresses the client's view of the software. The final product of the design is a prototype. The client evaluates the prototype and produces its recommendation and suggestion to analysts. The process continues in an iterative manner until all the user requirements are met. What is software prototyping? Basically, software prototyping is a working model of software with some limited functionality. The prototype does not always hold the exact logic used in the actual software application, and in an extra effort to be considered under effort estimation. So prototyping is used to allow the users to evaluate developer proposals and try them out before implementation. It also helps to understand the requirements which are user specific and may not have been considered by the developer during the product design. Software prototyping types. We will discuss the types of software prototyping in this slide, that is throwaway rapid prototyping. Throwaway prototyping is also called as rapid or close-ended prototyping. The type of prototyping uses very little efforts and with minimum requirements analysis to build up prototype. Once the actual requirements are understood, the prototype is discarded and the actual system is developed with a much clearer understanding of the requirements. Evolutionary prototyping. Evolutionary, the prototyping is also called as breadboard prototyping, is based on building actual functional prototypes, the heart of the future prototypes on the top of which the entire system is built. So by using the evolutionary prototyping, the well understood requirements are included in the prototype and the requirements are added as and when they are understood. Incremental prototyping. Incremental prototyping refers to building the multiple functional prototypes of the various subsystems and then integrating all the available prototypes to form a complete system. That is extreme prototyping. Extreme prototyping is used in the web developing domain. It consists of the three sequential phases. First, a basic prototype with data processing is simulated using a prototype service layer, and finally the services are implemented and integrated to the final prototype. This process is called extreme prototyping and used to draw the attention to the second phase of the process, where finally functional user interface is developed with very little regard to the actual services. Software prototyping applications. Software prototyping is most useful in development of systems having a high level of user interaction, such as online systems. So systems which need users to fill out the forms or go through various screens before data is processed can use prototyping very effectively to give the exact look and feel even before the actual software is developed. So software that involves too much of data processing and the most of the functionality is internal with very little user interface does not usually benefit from prototyping. The prototype development could be an extra overhead in such projects and maybe need a lot of extra efforts. Phases of prototyping model. You can see that requirement analysis, quick design, prototype implementation, testing, and this process is repeated again to test, and then the deliver final product. Next we have prototyping model. The following sections examine two versions of the prototyping model. The version 1 is about it is used as a requirements techniques, and the version 2 prototype is used as the specifications or a major part thereof. Version 1 is this approach as illustrated in Fig 1 on the next slide. Using the prototype, you will see on the next slide, as a means of quickly determining the needs of the client. It is discarded once the specifications have been agreed on. The emphasis of the prototype is on the representing those aspects of software that will be visible to the client or user. For example, input approaches and output formats. Thus, it does not matter if the prototype hardly works. Note that if the first version of the prototype does not meet the client's needs, then it must be rapidly converted into a second version. The version 2 is, in this approach as illustrated in the Fig 1, the prototype is actually used as the specifications for the design phase. The advantage of this approach is speed and accuracy, as not time is spent on drawing up written specification. The inherent difficulties associated with that phase, that is incompleteness, contradictions, and ambiguousness or ambiguities, as then avoided. Next we have advantages of prototyping model. The following are the advantages of prototyping model. Due the interaction between the client and the developer right from the beginning, the objectives and requirements of the software is well established. Suitable for the projects when clients has not clear idea about the requirements. The client can provide its input during development of the prototype. The prototype serves as an aid for the development of the final product. Some of the disadvantages of the prototyping models are as follows. The quality of the software development is compromised in the rush to present a working version of the software to the clients. The client look at the working version of the product at the outset and expect the final version of the product to be delivered immediately. This causes additional presence over the developer to adopt shortcut in order to meet the final product deadline. Problems to be tackled by prototyping. Customers' misconception, recompletion, communication, involvement, expectations, and automation. The second one is developers' wrong habit, not strict, misunderstandings, assumptions, and imaginations. So the third one problem is rules of the game are not defined at the beginning. So guys, it was all about today's lecture. We have studied a prototype model in software development life cycle. It is another model from which you can or the developers can get help for developing a product. So I want you guys to write a summary in the comments below that what you have learned from this lecture. I will meet you in the next lecture with a new topic. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.